Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Very excited to have you here for our Board of Directors meeting, Wednesday, November 4th. We can do a quick roll call, making sure everyone is here in attendance. I'll start with our Madam Chair, our Board Chair. First Lady?
Present.
Alexis?
I'm here.
Matt?
Here as well.
Commissioner Camilo?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Thompson? Maya?
Present.
Present.
And Matt Everett.
Aye.
Great. We're also joined by team members from the Mayor's Fund. We have Chris Kelsa, our Director of Finance. We have Leah Prestamo, our Counsel and Director of Programs and Policy. Danielle Bearline, Senior Advisor and Development Director. Ashley Fryer, Communications Manager. And JL, my right-hand man, who does everything. Fabulous. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our fearless leader, our board chair, to provide some opening remarks.
Thank you, Toya. Good afternoon, everyone. I know it's difficult to not be distracted during this significant night, this significant moment for our nation. But it is important that we talk about the work ahead and put ourselves in a strong position for 2021. Before Toya speaks again, I want to acknowledge this board and this team. If you think back to when we started this fiscal year, not one of us, not in our wildest dreams, could have predicted COVID-19, the tremendous suffering, economic crisis, social unrest, and the emotional toll this pandemic would take on everyone. It's been quite a year. And the Mayor's Fund, in the midst of uncertainty, adapted quickly and stepped right into the role our city needs right now. The team has been remarkable, and the thousands of New Yorkers who support the fund have been extremely generous, and we have the results to prove it. We raised $77.4 million in fiscal year 2020, the third highest in our history. And we launched significant responses to COVID-19, like the COVID Relief Fund, Food for Heroes, and restaurant revitalization efforts. And there is so much more, as you will hear about from Toya in the Executive Director's Report. Every dollar, every meal, every helping hand has made a difference in the lives of New Yorkers, and it wouldn't be possible without each one of you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson, for your team's enormous support, enormous help on the Summer Bridge. Thank you, Matt Klein, for your remarkable work on the restaurant revitalization efforts. Thank you, Commissioner Camilo, for your leadership along with DCAS in distributing PPE. And thank you, Alexis Blaine, for your attentiveness and long hours on the Audit and Finance Committee. And of course, thank you, JL, Danielle, Chris, Maya, Ashley, and Leah for everything that you do to support all of this work. Last, but certainly not least, I want to thank you, Toya. You have been an unwavering and radiant leader for this team. You demonstrated purpose and resolve throughout, and we sure got thrown some curves. When New York City most needed the fund to be fast and creative, you made sure the Mayor's Fund delivered. So I thank you, Toya. I thank you all. And Toya, you're going to talk to us next about the Executive Director's Report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, for your leadership during these incredibly challenging times. And I agree, no matter what the outcome of this historic election is, I'm truly hopeful that we as a country can begin a healing process that is based in kindness, tolerance, justice, and equity. So with that, we have a short agenda, just one resolution today. But before we jump into our programmatic work, we first need to review and approve the meeting minutes from our last board meeting on June 11th. So if everyone could please refer to page 1 in your board materials to review the minutes from the last board meeting. I'll let folks take a look to see if anyone has any questions or comments on the meeting minutes from the June 11th meeting. Any questions or comments? Great. May I have a motion to approve the minute meetings from the June 11th board meeting? Thank you, Matt. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Camilo. In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. That motion carries. Approved and adopted the minutes from June 11th. Today, we have one programmatic resolution for your review and approval. Please refer to Resolution 1, page 4 in your board book. As per our fiscal policies and procedures, board approval is required for any program expenditure over $250,000 and for any operational payment over $25,000. The resolution is for a contract with Democracy at Work Institute for the Accelerating Employee Ownership Initiative. The contract is not to exceed $530,000. The Mayor's Fund, in partnership with Deputy Mayor Thompson and his team at the Strategic Policies Initiatives, is working to accelerate employee ownership, particularly as in response to COVID-19. With support from a grant from the Open Society Foundation, the City of New York seeks to amplify the opportunity for employee ownership and gather strategic insights for continued growth and impact of this model. Deputy Mayor Thompson and his team have been working in this space for quite some time, and we're excited to have the support of OSF on yet another important project of this administration. The project is aimed at supporting the ecosystem of employee ownership conversion supports, and specifically a hotline that will centralize intake and business navigation. This project creates a unique opportunity to leverage key partnerships to reach a broad swath of New York City businesses and begin the robust data analysis to further target investments. With that, the Mayor's Fund would like to enter into a contract with the Democracy at Work Institute. Phil, did you want to provide any additional background information before I open it up for questions to our board members?
Sure. I will start with manufacturing as an example. There are 40,000 manufacturing companies in New York City employing, before the pandemic, about 400,000 workers. A majority of owners are baby boomers who are beginning to hit retirement age, and more than 60% of those do not have a succession plan for their businesses. And many are interested or open to selling their businesses to the employees of those companies. 82% of the employees are people of color who reside in New York. So the purpose of the hotline is actually to help owners who have an interest in selling to their employees to get technical support in figuring out how to do that. And same goes for the workers who have an interest in buying a company from their employer. Because one of the things we've learned from COVID is that there's a need to build the supply chain in New York for a variety of things, but we learned that through PPE. One of the goals of the city is to actually do more manufacturing and production here. And with the advent of advanced manufacturing machines and tools, there is an opportunity to rebuild New York City as a manufacturing center for the country. And so that's the broader goal here. And the hotline is actually to just reach out to those, particularly those 40,000 manufacturing owners, but owners of any business in New York, because of the stress of the pandemic, many are considering selling businesses rather than just seeing those jobs disappear and companies disappear. This is a way to actually build them under a different model of ownership, which actually goes to the workers. And another thing, workers who own their own companies don't pick up and move very often. So it's a very solid, we think, long-term approach towards recovery.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. Are there any questions from the board about this particular contract the Mayor's Fund would like to enter into?
I had a quick one.
Sure.
So you mentioned that this was that the funding is a grant from the Open Society. I just wanted to confirm that that grant specifically identified Democracy at Work Institute as the vendor.
It did.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner. Any other questions? Great. Having no other questions, can I have a motion to move this resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I have a second?
Second.
Was that Alexis?
It was Alexis. Yep.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Leah, you
Thank
have
you.
enough contracts. Great. So that was our one and only programmatic resolution. We will now turn to my executive director's report. As you know, and as the First Lady mentioned, we launched our COVID-19 Emergency Relief Fund to provide resources and support for healthcare workers, essential staff, local small businesses, displaced hourly wage workers, including immigrant workers, and families, youth, and vulnerable New Yorkers. I'm very pleased to say we've been extremely successful. We raised over $56 million from more than 9,950 people. Many of those people had never donated to the Mayor's Fund before. So these were new donors, grassroots donors, reaching thousands, tens of thousands of people in New York City. Over the last 8 months, we launched several successful programs. And we have some photos to share with you. Danielle and her team created and launched Food for Heroes in April, which served 170 meals to 87 locations throughout the city. Really excited and proud of that work. It was an original program. It was a brainchild of Danielle, and she and her team, along with folks at Mosby, managed that entire program and worked with vendors, worked with Leah and her team on contracts to make sure that we could provide nutritious meals to the men and women and individuals that were working so hard for our city. We received one of our largest donations, $20 million, from the Leon Black family to fund the New York City Healthcare Heroes, which provided over 300,000 bags of shelf-stable food and cleaning supplies to healthcare workers at health and hospitals and private voluntary hospitals. We also partnered with HRA, NYC Opportunity, and One Fair Wage to ensure the economic well-being of over 100 restaurants through the Restaurant Revitalization Program. And I want to thank Matt and his team at NYC Opportunity and Administrator Chance at HRA for partnering with us on that. We're really excited. The dollars have gone out to support those restaurants. Culturally appropriate food has been delivered to the 27 hardest hit communities throughout our city, and it has been quite successful. Matt, did you want to say a word or two about the Restaurant Revitalization Program? Your team has been instrumental.
It's a great partnership. Appreciate all the work together on it. I do think it's been very meaningful. We've got some reports back from grateful restaurant owners. support their workers, and also, as we talk a lot about, building things back better and more equitably, having this cadre of restaurants who are supporting a $15 minimum wage with tips on top is a powerful statement for fairer wages going forward.
Absolutely. And it's a key point of this administration, equity, and ensuring that all of our families are on a pathway to sustainability, to self-sufficiency. And so we at the Mayor's Fund are so proud to be a partner in that. And then lastly, we also received in-kind donations, actually over $5 million in in-kind donations. And I want to thank Commissioner Camilo and our partners at DCAS in facilitating the receipt and delivery of essential PPEs and other in-kind donations. We had to assemble quite a crew to receive those donations, account for them, manage them at JFK, come in, find warehousing, get them out to the people who needed them the most. And our partners at DCAS were essential in helping us navigate pickup, drop off, and distribution. And so I just wanted to publicly thank Commissioner Camilo for the support and help that you and your team continue to provide to the Mayor's Fund. And then most recently, we launched our fall fundraising campaign about 2 weeks ago, focusing on shelter. It's called More Than a Roof. And as we know, a shelter is a roof over your head, but a home is much more than that. A true home is a place where folks can find solace, safety, and comfort. And we believe every New Yorker deserves more than just a roof, they deserve a home. So to that end, we are raising dollars this fall and for our end of year appeal to target a handful of populations. In particularly, we're looking to support LGBTQ youth who do not find acceptance in their homes and among their family members. And that often means they have to build a home of their own. That includes furniture, appliances, and a mattress to lay their head on each night. Unfortunately, these young people must create their own safe spaces from scratch. We're hopeful that the funds raised will help assist those young people. Also, adults returning from incarceration. It means they need solid, stable ground from which they can begin to rebuild their lives as they return to their communities. From fresh clothing and hygiene products to resources and support that connects them to housing and employment, these individuals, these women and men, must reimagine their lives and their communities from the ground up. So again, we want to support them in that journey. And lastly, survivors of domestic violence. Often it means meeting the immediate and urgent needs for themselves and their children while seeking long-term safety and security. From a warm meal and a personal care product to rental assistance and mental health resources, a key priority for the First Lady. These families need comprehensive support to achieve the fresh start they deserve. So with our Raise More Than a Roof campaign, we're hoping to target not only our current donor base, but also those new donors, those over 9,000 new donors who contributed to our COVID Emergency Relief Fund, encouraging them to support the city, support their neighbors, and ensure that everyone has a safe home for this season. Lastly, I'm also thrilled to share that we had a stellar fundraising year, as the First Lady mentioned. So please refer to Table 1 on page 5 in your board book to see our revenue by fiscal year. As you can see, and as the First Lady mentioned, we raised over $77 million. It's our third highest in the 26-year history of the Mayor's Fund. Chris Kelsaw, our Director of Finance and HR, will provide a summary of our FY20 audit shortly. I just wanted to highlight that, magnificent accomplishment, the 77 million. On table 2, the next page, page 6, we have a list of our largest programs in terms of revenue. As I mentioned earlier, our top donations came from the Leon Black Family and the Open Society Foundations to support our relief efforts. Among that 77 million, we also had tens of millions of dollars in non-COVID related activity, and Leah Presamo and her team continue to manage those dollars, manage those programs, working with our agency partners. I like to remind folks that yes, we're in the middle of a crisis. Yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but we still have ongoing supports, ongoing programs that still need to be managed and supervised. And Leah and her team do a phenomenal job in making sure that the supports are there, our agency partners have what they need, as well as our community-based partners have what they need. And so just want to thank Leah and her team for that. And then on page 7, table 3, we have a list of our top donors. As you see, we continue to enjoy a strong partnership with Robin Hood, City Foundation, and that includes City Community Development, as well as Cities for Financial Empowerment, Ford Foundation, and JPB Foundation. And so again, all of these dollars raise in total 77 million. We can't do this without our finance team led by Chris Kelsaw, our programs team led by Leah, and then the development team led by Danielle. Before I pivot to Chris and the summary for our FY20 audit, I just want to thank Alexis, Matt, and Commissioner Camilo for serving on the audit committee. I'm really pleased to say we have a clean and on-time audit. Thank you to Chris and Harry. It is a 2-person finance team managing $77 million. Maya can attest to the Herculean feat that is. And so I want to publicly thank Chris and her team for doing the work. And again, thanking Alexis for serving as the chair of the audit committee, providing guidance as we met with our contractors RSM to review the audit and approve the audit. So I'll turn it over to Chris and they will provide a summary of our FY20 audit. Chris.
Thank you, Toya. Good afternoon. The Mayor's Fund Fiscal Year 20 audit was prepared by our external auditors, RSM US LLP. The audit was conducted over an approximate 3-month period. The finance team here at the Mayor's Fund, as Toya has mentioned, is Harry Chang, our finance associate, and myself. We did a tremendous amount of work along with the entire Mayor's Fund team, and it is reflected in our financial statements. During the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2020, the total contributions and grants were approximately $77.4 million. That's an increase of about $48.1 million from fiscal year 2019. Total expenses were approximately $66.8 million. That's an increase of approximately $37.5 million from the previous fiscal year. Our current assets on June 30th, 2020 consist of $14.3 million in cash, $8 million in accounts receivable, $12 million in investments, and $7,000 in prepaid expenses. Our current liabilities included accounts payable and accrued expenses of $6.9 million. That put our total net position at $27,407,362. That's an approximate increase of $11,700,000 from fiscal year 2019. Of our $77.4 million in revenue, $75.5 million is restricted. This revenue is provided by donors to fund various projects undertaken for the benefit of and on behalf of the City of New York. Approximately $1.9 million is unrestricted revenue. It includes funding from our contract with the City of New York and contributions for our Civic Innovation Program. Of our $66.8 million in expenses, $62 million of that represents direct program expenditures for the various projects with our city agency partners. The Mayor's Fund received funding from 3 federal awards during fiscal year 20. Each of these are reimbursement-based grants with expenditures that totaled $1.4 million during the fiscal year. As Toya mentioned, the Mayor's Fund also received $5.5 million in in-kind donations during fiscal year 20. This included $5.4 million in goods and services for the COVID-19 Relief Fund that was launched in March of this year. In closing, I'd just like to say, as Toya mentioned, the Mayor's Fund has had an exceptional year, and I am pleased to report that we are off to a good start in FY21. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I also, again, want to thank our board chair. It is really under her leadership that we have had such a stellar fundraising year, that we have successful programs that, you know, with Food for Heroes, I want to make a quick correction. It's 170,000 meals that were distributed to 87 locations. And so it's leadership. That's what really matters, and that's what counts. And we've done phenomenal work over this past fiscal year. And as Chris said, we've started this fiscal year off with a bang, and I'm really excited to see what we're able to accomplish. So with that, I want to open the floor to see if there are any items, new business that members want to bring up.
Toya, can I just follow up on Chris's report on behalf of the Audit and Finance Committee? You know, just want to make clear for everyone, so we received an unmodified audit from our auditors, which is sort of a clean bill of audit health with no material misstatements represented in the record. And I think to echo what Toya and the First Lady and others have already said, a lot of that, the credit for that should go to Chris and her team of 2, and to the entire front office team, because the increase in donations that came in, you know, their work increased at least proportionately, and perhaps at sort of a logarithmic level, right? Because of how much of the money comes in and then goes out again, and the auditors, you know, gave them a lot of credit for, in the face of an unprecedented, I think, really, at least in this administration, increase in the amount of money coming in, for keeping their processes in place and for really following that through. And that's reflected, I think, in the unmodified audit that we received and that was adopted by the Audit and Finance Committee at its last meeting.
Thank you so much, Alexa. That's very helpful. I also did want to recognize Roxanne John. I don't think I mentioned her during the roll call at 2:30 at the beginning of the meeting. Roxanne John is also during the meeting Chief of Staff for the First Lady. If there are no new business items, I will ask that we adjourn the meeting. Can I get a motion to close the meeting and adjourn?
Make the motion.
I think I heard Matt. Can I get a second? Second, you, Streamer Thompson. All in favor of adjourning the meeting on time?
Aye.
Aye.
That was a hearty aye. Any opposed? Fantastic. The motion carries. We have successfully adjourned the meeting. Again, you guys, thank you so much It is always a pleasure and delight to see everyone and to work with everyone. We have had a fabulous FY20. We're moving into a phenomenal FY21. Please, please take a breath, take a moment. We are in crazy times. However, we remain focused, we remain steadfast, and we remain connected to our values. Please stay connected to your values, stay focused on what is important, and we will be okay.
Amen.
I got lots of prayers going up. That's the only way I can keep it.